Okay, last time I taught, we talked about Matthew 1. I want to do a quick recap. It was basically his lineage, and we learned about some women. But the main point was Yeshua is rightfully the earthly and heavenly king. All authority on earth is due him, and all authority of heaven is due him. We're going to continue with that theme. This is going to be the main theme. If you looked at last week, the main theme was his earthly lineage, his dominion on earth, and what he deserved as king. And so this one's going to be more divinely inspired. We're going to see some of the divinity come out of who Yeshua is. Okay, we're going to start in Matthew 2. I'm going to read reading verses 1 through 8. Now, after Yeshua was born in Bethlehem of Judea in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east and have come to worship him." When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And when he had gathered all the chief priests and scribes of the people together, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. So they said to him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it is written by the prophet, 'But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judea, are not the least among the rulers of Judah. For out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel.' Then Herod, when he had secretly called the wise men, determined from them what time the star appeared, and he sent them to Bethlehem and said, 'Go and search carefully for the young child, and when you have found him, bring word to me that I may come and worship him also.'" So here we have these travelers from the east, and they're coming from the east. But what I wanted to point out was in verse 3, when Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. This might sound pretty weird, but why was all of Jerusalem concerned with him? Well, think about it. I don't know how much you know about Herod, but Herod was a wonderful political person. He had set himself up in Rome. He was well known in Rome. His family was known in Rome. And so the people were actually comfortable with Herod as their king because he wasn't going to bring any strife to their nation. Think about at work, where you work, and you have your superiors or your bosses or whatever you want to call them, and you get word that they're going to move on and you're getting a new person that's going to be in charge. What's your first thing that comes to mind? What kind of turmoil are we going to have? Who's coming in? What are they going to do? How are they going to change things? So when you see this, they're not talking about all the people in Jerusalem per se, but the leaders, the people that know their place, the people, his people that he's going to call in, at the chief priests, the people like that. So that's what it's talking about. The people in charge are the ones that are like, what's going on? We can't have this kind of turmoil. So you take that. But in verse 6, we see a prophecy given. And I wanted to turn to where this prophecy is found. This prophecy is found in Micah 5:1-2. I want to reread it first here in Matthew 2:6. "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not the least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel." But let's turn to Micah 5. I'm going to read verse 1 to give us a little bit of background, and 2. Micah 5, 1 and 2. Now gather yourself in troops, O daughter of troops. He has laid siege against us. They will strike the judge of Israel with a rod on the cheek. But you, Bethlehem Ephrathah, though you are little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of you shall come forth to me the one to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth are from old, from everlasting. I don't know why Matthew didn't include that last line. Whose goings forth are from old, from everlasting. This tells us who he is and where he's coming from. He is the Son of God. But we'll look at that a little bit more later and what the point of that prophecy is completely. Matthew 2, 9 through 12. So I'm going to pick up in verse 9 in Matthew 2. When they heard the king, they departed. And behold, the star which they had seen in the east went before them, till it came and stood over where the young child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceedingly great joy. And when they had come into the house, they saw the young child with Mary, his mother, and fell down and worshipped him. And when they had opened their treasures, they presented gifts to him, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Then, being divinely warned in a dream that they should not return to Herod, they departed for their own country another way. I think it's odd that we had this group of chief priests, we had this group of leaders, we had this group from the Far East. Who went to see the king? Only the people from the Far East. They should have been preparing, and they should have known this prophecy. They should have wanted to serve this king. Did you ever ask yourself why Herod didn't send some of his people? Then he wouldn't have had to worry about those kings coming back. Because he didn't trust their allegiance. They might go and worship this king too. They fall down and I don't think that would happen, but this is how much trust Herod did not have in people. He just thought, everyone's out to get my kingship. Sometimes the things we have are the things that destroy us. Verse 11, we see the three gifts, the gold, the frankincense, and the myrrh. We're going to talk a little bit more about those later too. But I did want to say, did anyone notice that in Exodus 30 and 31 this week, in our Torah portion, all three were mentioned, but in the opposite order. Myrrh was part of the oil, frankincense was part of the incense, and gold, it mentions the gold lampstand. So all three of the things that were given were mentioned in our Torah portion this week. I thought that was pretty cool. But here we see the first of three dreams. We've had a prophecy, we've had a dream, and the men were warned in a dream not to return to Herod. Let's continue through Matthew 2, 13 through 15. Now, when they had departed, behold, an angel of Jehovah appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, flee to Egypt, and stay there until I bring you word, for Herod will seek the young child to destroy him. When he arose, he took the young child and his mother by night, and departed for Egypt, and was there until the death of Herod, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, Out of Egypt I called my son. So this is the second prophecy and the second dream. We have a dream that Joseph had to take child to Egypt and keep him safe for a time. And in verse 15, we have another prophecy. Out of Egypt I called my son. And let's turn to Hosea 11:1 and take a look at that prophecy. So I'm going to actually read the whole chapter of 11. I think it's just really cool, a lot of the things that are in it, so I'm just going to read the whole thing. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. So this is about being called out of Egypt. This is the Exodus, what this story is talking about. But Matthew relates it to Yeshua going to Egypt and being called out. I just wanted to read through it to see some of the images that he uses in here, that we can see the Messiah throughout it. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. As they called them, so they went from them. They sacrificed to the Baals and burned incense to carved images. I taught Ephraim to walk, taking them by their arms, but they did not know that I healed them. I drew them with gentle cords with bands of love, and I was to them as those who took the yoke from their neck. I stooped and fed them. He shall not return to the land of Egypt, but the Assyrian shall be his king, because they refuse to repent. And the sword shall slash in his cities, devour his districts, and consume them, because of their own counsels. My people are bent on backsliding from me. Though they call to the Most High, none at all exalt him. How can I give up, Ephraim? How can I hand you over, Israel? How can I make you like Admah? How can I set you like Zebium? My heart churns within me. My sympathy is stirred. I will not execute the fierceness of my anger. I will not again destroy Ephraim, for I am God and not man, the Holy One in your midst, and I will not come with terror. They shall walk after Jehovah. He will roar like a lion. When he roars, then his sons shall come trembling from the west. They shall come trembling like a bird from Egypt, like a dove from the land of Assyria. And I will let them dwell in their houses, says Jehovah. Ephraim has encircled me with lies, and the house of Israel with deceit. But Judah still walks with God, even with the Holy One who is faithful. Okay, from all this, we get this one little line, out of Egypt I called my son. Sorry. So we had the second dream and the second prophecy. Now I need to turn my page. We're going to continue on back in Matthew 2, verses 16 through 18. Sorry, I'm breaking these into small chunks, but there's some things I need to point out before I get to the points. Chapter 2, verses 16 through 18. Then Herod, when he saw that he was deceived by the wise men, was exceedingly angry, and he sent forth and put to death all the male children who were in Bethlehem and in all its districts from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had determined from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, A voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation, weeping, and great mourning. Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted, because they are no more. This prophecy is found in Jeremiah 31:15. I'm going to read 31:15 through 17. While I'm turning there, How many prophecies have we had so far? 3. This is the 3rd prophecy. What about dreams? 2 dreams. 31:15 through 17. Thus says Jehovah, a voice was heard in Ramah, lamentation and bitter weeping, Rachel weeping for her children, refusing to be comforted for her children, because they are no more. Thus says Jehovah, refrain your voice from weeping and your eyes from tears, for your work shall be rewarded, says Jehovah, and they shall come back from the land of the enemy. There is hope in the future, says Jehovah, that your children shall come back to their own border. That was it. So we have this 3rd prophecy. Let's continue on and finish the chapter up and get to that last dream. Now, when Herod was dead, behold, an angel of Jehovah appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Arise, take the young child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the young child's life are dead. Then he arose, took the young child and his mother, and came into the land of Israel. But when he heard that that person was reigning over Judah instead of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And being warned by God in a dream, he turned aside into the region of Galilee, and he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled, which is spoken by the prophets, he shall be called a Nazarene. Well, that one I didn't mention in my thing. So we're going to look at the 3 prophecies before and the 3 dreams that were mentioned. We also see 3 sets of gifts. So we had 3 sets of 3 gifts, 3 prophecies, and 3 dreams. Many of the people talk about gold, and what does gold signify? Does anybody have any idea what kinds of thing gold signifies? Purity, money, kingship. The first prophecy is about kingship and a ruler. The next gift was frankincense. Frankincense symbolizes things like divinity, godliness. And if we look at Hosea 11:1, he says, he is my son. He is giving him divinity. And the third thing is myrrh. And myrrh symbolizes death. And what's the third prophecy about? Rebecca's children being killed. Now it'd be really cool if I could have wrapped up all those dreams too into the same 3 things, but I couldn't do it. I looked for some things online to see if anybody had done something like that. I couldn't find anybody else that had done that or been able to. I'm sure there's probably someone smarter than me that has done it and put those 3 things together, but I just thought it was really relevant and cool how we had the 3 prophecies, the 3 gifts, and the 3 dreams in this passage. And it really broke up well from the first week, because like we say often, it's not like the writer broke this up. It was broken up well after them. But they do seem to go in a way that they're saying, okay, here's his godliness as man, or his kingship as man, and then his divine kingship, and that he does have authority in all earth and heaven. And I think that's what's going to set up the stage for the rest of Matthew. And that's something we need to be thinking as we read through Matthew about this, his divinity, or his kingship and authority from earth and heaven. The last thing I wanted to mention, and I hope you guys take the time to do this, Look at the other Gospels. Just read the first 2 or 3 chapters of Mark, Luke, and John. Look at how they all start differently. The only other one that starts with his birth is Luke. Why is that? These are things you can ask yourself and just get a deeper meaning and understanding of what the writers and God is trying to tell us through these different views of the gospel. Shabbat Shalom.